Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. On behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you joined us for our three-day Metals and Mining Conference. Our next live presentation is from Precipitate Gold. Please note you may submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. And you can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings by clicking Book a Meeting in the top toolbar. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Jeff Wilson. He's the President and Chief Executive Officer of Precipitate Gold, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol PREIF and on the TSXV under the symbol PRG. Welcome back, Jeff.
Thanks, John. I appreciate the introduction and looking forward to the presentation. All right. Well, thanks everybody for taking the time to join in. It's my pleasure to give you an opportunity to get an update on Precipitate Gold, or in the event that you're new to the story, a brief introduction. So on that note, we'll sort of skip along here through the forward-looking statement. Of course, all investors are advised to do their own due diligence and research. I will be making forward-looking statements. As a corporate sort of highlights and sort of the main summary of the company here, you can see we've got working capital of just about $4 million Canadian. No warrants issued and outstanding on the company. We've got good, tight structure. 100% owned Dominican properties. We're focused on epithermal gold and copper targets in the Dominican Republic. Our Wanda Herrera project, which is our flagship asset that we'll primarily speak about today, is situated next to a deposit called the Romero deposit in the Dominican Republic, operated by a company called Gold Quest Mining. Our Ginger Ridge zone on that project has seen some impressive initial drill results, returning 5 meters of 13.4 grams per ton back in 2014. And we've delineated a number of new high-grade zones, including the CN zone, which has returned 32 grams gold over 5 meters in a trench. And we're doing ongoing exploration and work programs as we speak, and expect to have news coming in the coming weeks and months. Quick snapshot of the structure. You can see here we've got 130 million shares issued and outstanding, 140 million fully diluted. As I mentioned, you've got that $4 million cash position. Market cap of about $13 million Canadian presently. Now that fluctuates depending on the closing price on any given day. A couple of our major shareholders, Barrick Gold, just under 10%, and Strategic Metals at a little over 15%. You can see the stock chart there over the course of the last 12 months, and that's something that I'll talk about a little later in the presentation. People, of course, we always believe that people are a critical component to any junior exploration mining company, and we've got a nice balance of geological expertise, in-country experience, and deal and capital market experience. I won't belabor this for now, but I would welcome anybody to go to our website and take a closer look at the background of the team, and we believe we've got a very solid, committed team. So this is where we're situated. You can see from the inset slide that we're over here, just about 1,500 kilometers from the continental United States. That's the Dominican Republic. And you can see through the red dots on the primary map here, there are 3 project locations. And we've got a project immediately adjacent to Barrick's Pueblo Viejo mine in the Dominican Republic. That's one of the largest gold mining operations in Latin America. Has been for many, many years, and continues along that path, and in fact is in the midst of a proposed expansion to increase the tailings and increase production there. And then the primary asset I'll talk about is our Wanda Herrera project over here in sort of the western part of the country that, as I mentioned, is situated adjacent to Gold Quest Romero, and is a project that we are spending most of our time and efforts exploring at present. You can see from the next slide here, this is the relationship between Gold Quest Mining in gray, Precipitate Gold in gold. Up in the northern part of Gold Quest project, you've got the Romero deposit. This is, depending on the cutoff and current economics, there's somewhere in the ballpark of about a 4 million ounce gold equivalent resource. That project or that deposit is currently being advanced through development, through an environmental impact study, and towards production. At the same time, you can see from their property map, there's a number of additional lighter blue dots to the south of the main deposit that indicate exploration targets. And so there's still a significant amount of upside on the Gold Quest project. And that ties in with the Precipitate story. As you can see on our property boundary or within our property boundaries in gold, we've got also a number of red and pink exploration targets that we've either delineated through sampling and mapping, and in some cases drilling. And in other cases have advanced beyond that with geophysical surveying and other methods to test some of these targets. But the majority of these dots on our ground remain relatively early stage with respect to the exploration work that they've been done. And most of these have either not been drilled or have only been drilled with very limited amount of drill testing. So we see this as a very prolific belt. This is about 40 kilometers from the very top to the very bottom of this sort of land package. And this geological trend runs right through both properties. This is a map that sort of shows some of the recent sampling or the latest sampling that we did throughout the project. And each of these, it's very tough to see, I'm sure, on the screen, but each of these little dots, red dots, represents an individual soil sample that we collected from the property. You can see we did an extensive survey. This is about 18,000 individual soil samples collected in a number of different zones. And the red sort of demarks where these samples returned anomalous or impressive gold or copper values. And so there's a significant amount of geochemical data that we've accumulated and acquired from within our property package. And that was work that we did a few years ago when we were still sort of somewhat on hold with respect to being aggressive with our exploration. We then sort of went back and revisited this data and the results of which unlocked a number of new zones that emerged from within the property. So we've got a fairly strong understanding of the geochemical or the soil gold and copper component within a number of different zones. But one of the things we highlight here is geophysics has really been the key. There's definitely soil anomalies that can be delineated through sampling, but there's not a lot of outcrop. And so geophysics and specifically induced polarization or IP to test the chargeability has really been the key component to unlock targets within this entire belt. And that includes Gold Quest Romero, Gold Quest Cochimbo, which is a more recent discovery on their ground, and even further north at Unigold's Candelones deposit. You see these maps indicate chargeability, and you can see that the pink or the red indicates the stronger chargeability anomalies, whereas the blue would be the more resistive or lower chargeability rocks. Chargeability typically indicates sulfides. Sulfides typically are where the gold and the copper would be hosted. And so this, again, is a very important tool for vectoring in tandem with, good old-fashioned sampling and mapping and prospecting. So you can see the kinds of targets that have delineated discoveries and deposits in the region. And it gives us a very good indication of what it is we're looking for when we deploy our IP geophysical surveys to our property. This gives you an indication of some of the sort of regional areas where geophysical IP has been surveyed and the results of that. And you can see, as I mentioned, the Gold Quest discovery up to the north is within a very strong chargeability trend or anomaly that's situated here. But we see a number of these pink or red zones within our property package that also indicate to us the potential for sulfides and potential, copper and gold mineralization. On the back of this information, which was done some time ago, we just in recent months announced that we were going to be re-engaging a new program of geophysics to both infill some of the IP lines that we had previously done, and in other cases expand or extend those IP lines to survey a greater or broader area for a better understanding of the geophysical signatures that exist beneath the surface. And essentially, for anybody that doesn't know, IP chargeability essentially you put poles into the ground, you inject an electric charge into the ground, and you measure how responsive the rock at subsurface is to that charge. Does it hold the charge? Does it resist the charge? And if it holds the charge, again, that indicates sulfide components, and that's really where you want to be with respect to exploring and ultimately drilling. You can see on this map, the pink lines indicate where we've expanded our surveys or where the most recent surveys have been conducted. The gray areas or the gray lines indicate where we had previous geophysical information. So you can see we're expanding and extending the survey area. Looking at the first batch of results that we issued from that survey, it's down here. If you see the inset map where I'm pointing at with the pointer here, this is an area sort of in the southern region of our land package where we conducted this. And this is in the black dashed lines indicate a geochemical anomaly or gold and copper at surface. And so you see some traces here of a couple of areas where we had some anomalous gold and copper values at surface. In fact, that can be highlighted by these two yellow stars where these are trenches that were conducted in these areas. T1 is trench 1, where we returned 3 meters of 2.8% copper within 8 meters of 1.3% copper, very impressive copper values. And in trench 2, 4.4% copper over 1.8 meters within 5.3 meters of 1.6% copper. So some really interesting base metal and copper values in this area. And these lines indicate, the thinner lines indicate some of the IP geophysical survey lines. And the darker lines here are the ones that we've highlighted on the right side to show you these lines in section. So you can see from a plan view looking down in the area, you can see that pink anomalous chargeability high that we're looking for that is obviously indicative of sulfides. But when you look at these in section, you can see that below surface, there's quite an extensive amount of high chargeability anomalies that exist, not only down to about 400 meters, which this survey sort of measures to, but many of these are open at depth, indicating the potential that there could be more or perhaps even enlarged chargeability anomalies subsurface. So this is really important to us that we're seeing these geophysical anomalies, these IP chargeability anomalies that we hadn't otherwise seen through this most recent survey. This is another way of looking at it, mostly here with respect to the sections on the right side. What we've done here is what we call quantitative sections. And so we sort of got rid of a lot of the noise and really tried to highlight the high chargeability zones. And you can see they stand out a little bit better here in terms of these sort of magenta colored areas. And again, none of these anomalies have ever been drill tested with any prior drilling by ourselves on this property area. So these are new emerging geophysical anomalies that are situated right underneath some very impressive gold and copper values at surface and really point towards areas that we're getting very interested in terms of follow-up and potential drilling. I'm going to show you another area here, and if you see my pointer on the side on the inset map, you can see we'll look at more of a sort of a south central part of the property package, which is where our Ginger Ridge and Ginger Ridge East zones are located. Of significance here, right across the other side of the claim boundary, is a recent discovery or latest discovery from GoldQuest called the Kachimbo zone or Kachimbo discovery, where GoldQuest reported 15.2 meters of 5.3 grams per ton gold. This is that area, if you look up here, just on the other side of the claim boundary, this is the claim boundary here. You can see that the discovery was in sort of two parallel chargeability anomalies running sort of in a southeast direction or trending direction. And as it comes across the claim boundary here, you can see that those same two pink structures exist on our ground at Ginger Ridge and Ginger Ridge East. The little dots over top of this indicate sampling that we've done. And again, we see some very significant surface mineralization in both gold and copper. We've had some impressive prior drill results. And we believe that there's definitely justification to take a deeper look at what's happening subsurface here through ongoing geophysical surveying with IP. So again, this is an area that's in this sort of south central part of the property package. You can see here from the larger map, again, you see this southeast, northwest trending pink blobs, if you will. The white outlines that are traced over top, again, that's gold and copper mineralization at surface. So we're seeing surface values in soils here. And again, when we look at these IP lines that are cut across this zone, and we pull out some of the highlight lines in a section, almost like slices of bread coming out of a loaf, again, you can see these very strong chargeability highs that are situated on both Ginger Ridge and the Ginger Ridge East side, which is over here on the right side, where most of these anomalies have not been tested, with the exception of line 10, which is located here, where we did drill through the highest chargeability back in 2014, and we did return that highlight drill intercept of 13 meters of 5 grams. So this gives us proof of concept, and it also indicates to us that there are a number of other anomalous chargeability zones within this Ginger Ridge and Ginger Ridge East zone that have not been tested with the drill bit, and again represent compelling future drill targets for us as we move forward on this data. Again, I show you again these sections using the quantitative sections. And again, we've cut out all the noise, all the various colors, and really just highlight the highest chargeability in that sort of purple or magenta. And again, you can get an even better illustration here of how prior drilling, which are these traces along here, have not adequately tested the highest chargeability anomalies. And we're seeing a lot of these extend to depths lower than sort of 350, 400 meters, which again gives us some credence to be able to go in here and test not only these anomalies that we can see within the first 300, 400 meters of surface, but also justifies perhaps doing some drilling at a greater depth to find out what's happening subsurface. I wanted to also point out another region of the project here. Again, we're in the southern part of the property package, where we've already talked about the southeast zone and the central zone, one of those first IP anomalies that I showed you. But this area down here towards Pink and Melkor, you can see here a very open-ended, if you will, chargeability anomaly, that pink color that sort of is open-ended to the west. Again, our survey has not crossed over any further to the sort of southwest to see just where the extent of this pink coloration or these high chargeability anomalies go. But this is a fairly extensive sort of 2,000-3,000 meter trend that is open and definitely justifies ongoing sampling and mapping as a first step. But perhaps we could go in and do more geophysical surveying in this area here that's open to the southwest. And we're quite excited about all of what we're seeing here in this southern region of the property package. Again, I wanted to highlight that this is more than just a couple of zones where we're doing the geophysics. Along with that geophysical work, we are also continuing to do, or have been continuing to do, ongoing prospecting, sampling, and sort of new target identification. Some of the most recent work has delineated a number of new targets, the GM, the CDN, the CN, the JT, a number of other zones on the property. And one highlight that's come out of that in the last several months has been a zone that we call the CN zone. And as you can see here, we're getting some very impressive. This is a zone that was just identified in the last 8 months or so. This is an area where we've reported rock grab samples of 78.3 grams per ton gold, 34.9 grams per ton gold, 11.7, 8.7. And that 73.8% is the highest individual rock sample ever reported within this entire region. So nothing reported by GoldQuest has returned gold grades of that extent or that value. So this is a really impressive zone. We also trench this to get a more contiguous or consistent idea of the mineralization. And our third trench at the CN zone returned 32 grams per ton gold and 286 grams per ton silver over 5 meters. So again, there's something going on here. This is an area that we have not yet done geophysical surveying over, but this is an area that, again, will be part of our ongoing exploration and target delineation as we hope to move towards a drill program in the months ahead. As I mentioned, that 73.9 was the highest grab sample, a rock grab sample in the entire region. This map may be a little bit difficult to decipher on this scale, but if you check out our presentation on our website, you'll find this image, and it's an indication of just how prolific this entire belt is with respect to both gold and copper mineralization. You're getting double-digit grades in gold grams per ton, double digits in percent copper on a number of different individual samples on both sides of the claim boundary, both GoldQuest and Precipitate. So we really see this as a prolific district-scale opportunity that, although it has a multi-million-ounce deposit delineated at GoldQuest's project, we still think this is relatively underexplored. And if you think about all those dots that I showed on both GoldQuest's ground and ours, I think it's indicative of the exceptional ongoing exploration potential that these projects host. I'd be remiss not to mention that we also have a couple of other properties in the country of the Dominican Republic, one of which you're looking at here in gold, which essentially surrounds Barrick's Pueblo Viejo mine on three sides. We did have a deal with Barrick where they entered into an earn-in agreement where they ultimately spent $7 million over 5 years in exploration with the right to earn an interest in the project. During that process, they also wanted to acquire outright some individual pieces of ground from us, which we sold them for $5 million US and a 3% NSR. So some of the areas in where I'm pointing these arrows, we have actually a 3% NSR on ground that is within Barrick's Pueblo Viejo mining operation. And we still host this ground fully surrounding them on three sides. We are still in the process of reviewing and evaluating all of the data from Barrick's work. We're going to look to combine that with the work that we did ourselves and see whether or not there might be some exploration targets yet to be tested within this land package. I will say that Barrick did very good work, but Barrick was looking for a very specific target. I think they had a very specific model in mind. And of course, their thresholds are quite high, being a major company that's really focused on tier one global assets. So again, there might be some opportunity here for us to identify some underexplored or underappreciated zones within our property package that might warrant going back and doing follow-up work. That's yet to be determined as we continue to go through the review of Barrick's data. But we do own that 100%. So this is a quick summary of the property package as I've just described it, and then I'll get to the questions. Wanda Herrera, strategically located, multiple anomalies that we've recently identified in recent years, and ongoing IP geophysical surveying that is a very, very important tool for drill target delineation. And many of these target areas are already permitted for drilling, so we don't expect any unexpected delays as we move towards drilling as these targets emerge. Pueblo Grande, as I said, we had a 5-year earn-in with Barrick. They spent $7 million. We generated through that an awful lot of data and information that we're going over now. And we're sort of looking to see whether or not there might be some future work that would be justified and warranted to go back and do some follow-up there. Before I leave you, I wanted to just give you a little sort of snapshot here of something that I think is significant with respect to the timing and the opportunity here. These are 10-year charts. The top one is Gold Quest. The middle one is Unigold, another DR explorer down the belt from us or up the belt from us, and Precipitate. And what you'll see here is over the course of a 10-year spell, these three charts really move in tandem, almost in lockstep with each other. And they're very much aligned as it relates to upticks and downticks in their share price and market value. As you can see here, Gold Quest has seen a fairly recent breakout in the last, call it 12 months or so, where they've sort of moved from, 8-10 cents a share up to about $1.30 today. Quite a significant move. You're seeing a breakout now in Unigold, where they've sort of gone from 4 or 5 cents a share up to about 20. Precipitate, on the other hand, has had a little bit of a head fake here in the early part of this year and then has been otherwise flat. And so we think, all things being equal, if this pattern, this long-term pattern of trading in unison with each other continues, we like to think that there's an opportunity here for Precipitate to move forward. And in the last 12 months, Gold Quest is up 371%, Unigold is up 233%, and Precipitate just 42%. So we think if these charts get back aligned with the sort of the 10-year trend, we think that there's a real opportunity here for Precipitate share price to close the gap a little bit on a relative basis. And that's it for me. So on that note, I'm going to flip over to Q&A here. And I guess I'll just start with the first question. How would you characterize Gold Quest? I would characterize Gold Quest, that's a broad question, but I would characterize Gold Quest as being an emerging 4 or 5 million ounce deposit gold equivalent that is pushing through development and advancing toward production. It's still got significant exploration upside. They've seen a huge appreciation in their share price over the last 12 months. And we think is a fairly compelling sort of analog for what the Dominican Republic can be and the potential to advance a project from discovery through to development and hopefully into production. Next question, how would you characterize Goldquest in terms of valuation? Is there a read-through for Precipitate Gold? Well, I think I touched on that with the charts. I think that, we've typically seen forward movement in our share price when there's been forward movement in share price from Goldquest. We haven't seen that recently. I will say that, being quite honest, we had a little bit of selling pressure here in the last couple of months, and we're trying to manage that at present and see if we can clear that path so that that selling pressure subsides a little bit and we can start to move again more in lockstep with our Dominican peers. But I think that you're starting to see a real re-rate on Goldquest, and I'm hopeful that that will start to reflect on Precipitate as well, as it has done in the past. Next question, if you were to have a 1 million ounce gold resource, might that hypothetical resource have a similar grade as Goldquest at 3.4 grams per ton gold, or at least close? Yes, I think we're in the same rocks, we're in the same geology, we're seeing the same styles of mineralization, and these types of deposits, these VMS, and in some cases epithermal deposits, tend to happen in clusters. They tend to happen in string of pearls, if you will, and so that's a big part of our story, is that we believe we're in the same geological environment as Goldquest, and I think that there's a potential for there to be more of the same on our side of the claim boundary. What is your near-term exploration strategy for Wanda Herrera? Well, as I mentioned, we're actively pursuing IP geophysics, which we believe is a very important tool in this region. Those geophysical results will be combined with all the geochemical data that we already have, and really utilizing this as a significant step towards drill target delineation, prioritizing targets, deciding which are the most prospective, where would we drill first, and how would we sequence those drill programs. And so we're definitely moving towards Wanda Herrera as our primary asset, and moving that towards a drill program as promptly as we can, but making sure that we do so wisely. Next question, what are the milestones for 2025, 2026 in terms of advancing Wanda Herrera and Pueblo Grande? Good question. I think obviously ultimately at Wanda Herrera, it's sequentially sort of trying to delineate targets. We can't do geophysics and geochem over every single portion of the property. We have to do these things sort of in sequence, but we are starting to compile quite an extensive array or number of target areas that are advancing through stage programs of exploration and mapping and sampling, and now geophysics. And we think that this project could see a significant amount of work over the course of the next year or two, for sure, with respect to ongoing exploration and hopefully a significant amount of drilling as well. Obviously, the Treasury will have to be sufficient to do that kind of ongoing drilling and exploration, but we think we're in the right kind of market for that. And as I said, we've already got about $4 million in the Treasury to at least get started on that kind of a campaign. The last question I have here is, what is the investment climate in the Dominican Republic and the support for the mining industry? Good question. And again, we've seen the precedent set by our neighbors at Goldquest, who have recently had 2 tranches of private placements over the last 12 months, all of which was subscribed for by Dominican wealthy investors, people who are business leaders in the Dominican Republic. They are connected with government. They are connected with community leaders. And they did an initial financing of, I believe it was $8 million at about 16 cents per share. They then did a subsequent $16 million at, I believe it was 60 cents a share. And so they've put their money where their mouth is, supporting the sector, supporting Goldquest's activities. And these are not junior mining investors that play penny stocks. These are sophisticated investors that are investing in this because I think they see a pathway for this project of Goldquest to move towards production. And being that we're in the same belt, we think that the environment, both politically and from an investment and a business standpoint, has greatly improved over the course of the last, call it 2 years, year and a half. And we think we're sort of on the cusp here of a real reawakening, if you will, in the Dominican Republic with respect to mining and how mining can fuel the economy. So on that note, that's the last question that I have here in the Q&A inbox. I, again, appreciate everybody taking the time to sit in and give me the opportunity to provide you an update. I know in this short amount of time, I probably wasn't able to cover everything that you would like to know, so I would welcome you to reach out to me directly. You can email me at jwilson@precipitategold.com, or you can contact me at the contact numbers on your screen there. All the information I've talked about is available on our website at precipitategold.com. And again, thank you very much for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.